Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We're really getting into the weeds today, literally.
Yeah, literally into the weeds and, well, the dirt underneath them.
Exactly. So our mission today is to decode how an invisible, ancient microorganism is, fundamentally flipping the script on modern agriculture.
It's a massive paradigm shift.
It really is. And to do this, we're looking at a fantastic article from March 24th, 2026. It's by Laurent Fabian, published on the wellness and sourcing platform Ingredientsage.
Right. Great platform.
Yeah. And the piece is titled How Archaea Probiotics Are Revolutionizing Pasture Management for Modern Farmers.
It's a mouthful, but the science in it is just incredible.
It is. And the best part is you don't need a PhD in microbiology to grasp how this is offering farmers a shortcut to healthier soil and, better bottom lines.
Which is really the ultimate goal here.
Okay, let's unpack this. The article starts with this anecdote about a farmer named Jake. And Jake is just completely frustrated.
I mean, anyone would be.
Right. He's standing in his pasture, staring down at this hard, compacted dirt. He's dumping thousands of dollars of conventional synthetic fertilizer onto his land, and absolutely nothing is growing.
Just burning money at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The grass is stunted, the soil feels like concrete, and his profit margins are just evaporating.
Because he's treating his farm like a mechanical system.
Yeah.
Right? Like inputting chemicals and expecting a biological output.
Yeah, exactly. When in reality, he's standing on top of what the article describes as a microscopic ghost town. So the solution to Jake's problem, which sounds totally like a marketing buzzword at first, is archaea probiotics.
Yeah, and calling them a probiotic almost feels like a disservice, honestly.
Right, because when you say probiotic, I automatically picture like gut health or a bottle of expensive kombucha.
Exactly. You associate the word with standard beneficial bacteria. But archaea aren't bacteria at all.
Wait, they aren't?
No, not at all. They belong to an entirely different domain of life. If you map out the phylogenetic tree, you've got bacteria on one distinct branch.
Okay.
And then eukaryotes, which is fungi, plants, us humans, on another branch.
Right.
Archaea sit entirely apart. They are their own thing. They've been evolving on Earth for billions of years. And historically, microbiologists only found them in the planet's most extreme environments.
Like where?
Like hydrothermal vents at the bottom of the ocean or highly acidic hot springs, hypersaline lakes. They are extremophiles by nature.
Wow. So they're like the ultimate survivalist preppers of the microbe world.
That is a perfect way to describe them, yeah. Survivalist preppers.
Because, when you think about conventional soil amendments or standard bacterial inoculants, they're usually pretty fragile.
Oh, incredibly fragile.
Like a massive heat wave hits and the standard bacteria just die off.
Right.
Or a heavy rainstorm comes and washes all that expensive synthetic fertilizer right out of the root zone.
Right, it just flushes away. But archaea have this biological architecture designed for catastrophic conditions. What's fascinating here is the specific structural difference that lets them survive all those stressors.
Okay, lay some science on us. What's the difference?
So, unlike bacteria, which have cell membranes made of ester-linked lipids.
Ester-linked lipids. Okay.
Yeah, and those can literally melt in extreme heat or fracture at freezing temperatures. But archaea utilize ether-linked lipids, and they have these branched isoprene chains.
I don't totally know what an isoprene chain is, but it sounds tough. Like they essentially have reinforced temperature-resistant armor at a cellular level.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's cellular armor. And that structural integrity lets them execute this amazing survival strategy in the soil.
How so?
Well, during a severe environmental stressor, like, say, a prolonged drought or a massive temperature swing, they don't desiccate and die. They just enter a dormant state.
Oh, they just go to sleep.
Right. They power down all their non-essential metabolic functions just to preserve their core genetic material.
It's like the biological equivalent of a computer going into safe mode.
Yes. Perfect analogy.
Like they shut down the display, close the background apps, isolate the operating system, and just wait it out.
And then, the exact moment the ambient conditions stabilize, like when that first rain of the season finally arrives,
They reboot.
instantly, they reboot and resume their metabolic functions.
That is wild. So you aren't just pouring a delicate chemical investment onto a field to watch it evaporate. The investment goes to sleep and wakes up exactly when the grass needs the support.
Exactly. It provides an environmental insurance policy that a bag of synthetic nitrogen just cannot match.
Yeah.
The synthetic input is totally passive.
Right. It gets used or it's gone.
Exactly. Lost to the atmosphere or the groundwater. But archaea actively react to the environmental data.
Okay, but this brings up a really crucial logical question for me, and probably for anyone listening.
Sure.
If these extremophiles are native to the Earth and they've been here for billions of years and they are literally built to survive the apocalypse,
Yeah.
why do modern farmers like Jake have to go buy them and put them back into the soil? Like, why aren't they just already there doing your job?
That is the big question. And it points directly to what industrial farming practices have done to the soil structure over the last, say, 80 years.
Oh, right.
Because while archaea can survive extreme natural weather events, they really cannot survive constant systemic chemical warfare.
Chemical warfare. That's a strong way to put it.
Well, think about it. Decades of heavy, deep tillage physically destroy their habitats.
Right, chopping up the soil.
And then you have constant applications of anhydrous ammonia, synthetic salts, heavy fungicides. It essentially carpet bombs the microbial ecosystem.
So the soil isn't this thriving biological city anymore. It's just a sterile sponge.
A completely sterile sponge. We've evicted the original workforce.
Wow. And the crops we grow, they didn't evolve to survive in sterile dirt.
No. They evolved over millions of years to plug into this highly sophisticated, communicative metropolis underground.
So when a farmer introduces this archaea probiotic back into the pasture, they aren't just dumping a nutrient load, they are essentially reinstalling the soil's original operating system.
Reinstalling it and booting up an ancient communication network.
I love that.
And the word communication is actually scientifically accurate here. Plant roots and archaea engage in this continuous exchange of chemical signaling.
How does that work? Like, how do they talk?
Well, as a plant photosynthesizes, it takes carbon from the atmosphere, right? Turns it into liquid sugars and carbohydrates.
Okay.
And it actually pushes a significant portion of those sugars out through its roots into the surrounding soil. We call these root exudates.
So the plant is broadcasting a chemical bounty, basically saying, hey, I have food to attract the microbes it needs.
Precisely. It signals, I've got energy here, but in return, I need bioavailable phosphorus, or I need water.
And the archaea pick up the phone.
They detect the chemical trails, migrate straight to the root zone, and begin metabolizing. And this is where their extremophile nature makes them unparalleled soil engineers.
Because of how they process things.
Right. They possess unique metabolic pathways and extracellular enzymes that regular bacteria just completely lack.
Let's talk about those enzymes, because the article details how they function as this highly sophisticated recycling system.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Like, take cow manure or just a dead layer of crop residue. Normal soil bacteria look at the complex molecular bonds, I think it's the lignin in that organic matter, and they really struggle to break it down.
Oh, yeah. Lignin is an incredibly stubborn, complex organic polymer. It can take normal bacteria months or even years to process it.
But the archaea are different.
Very different. They secrete specific enzymes that act like microscopic cleavers. They effortlessly break those tough carbon bonds apart.
Wow.
Because their metabolism is so aggressive, they digest complex organic matter rapidly, and that frees up all the trapped nitrogen, phosphorus, and micronutrients.
And then they release those nutrients in a form the plant roots can just instantly absorb.
Exactly.
So they are doing all the heavy digestive lifting. The plant doesn't have to expend its own energy trying to forage for scarce resources.
It's a highly efficient symbiosis. The plant feeds the archaea carbon, and the archaea feed the plant bioavailable minerals.
So what does this all mean, like, tangibly? The biology is mind-bending, but farming is a business.
Right.
Jake wasn't out there with a microscope trying to foster a bacterial utopia. He was trying to grow enough grass to feed his cows without going bankrupt.
Totally.
So how does this enzymatic action actually translate into the physical transformation of the dirt itself?
Well, the physical architectural shift in the soil is where you see the tangible results. Remember when Jake was staring at that compacted, hard-as-concrete pasture?
Yeah.
He was looking at soil that lacked structural integrity. When you don't have biological life, microscopic silt and clay particles just collapse in on themselves. They seal the surface.
And when soil collapses like that, plant roots can't push through it. Water can't penetrate it. The rain just hits that hardpan and sheets right off.
Exactly. But the article notes that archaea actually change the physical architecture of the environment. They promote the formation of soil aggregates.
Soil aggregates, how do they do that?
Through the secretion of biological glues.
Wait, glue?
Basically, yeah. As the archaea metabolizes, they exude extracellular polymeric substances, which are just complex glycoproteins and polysaccharides.
Okay, microbial superglue.
Right. These sticky substances act as an adhesive. They physically bind the microscopic particles of sand, silt, and clay together into larger, stable clumps. Those are the aggregates.
So they are essentially gluing the dirt together to transform a solid concrete slab into a highly porous sponge.
What's a structural sponge? Yes. You suddenly have all these microscopic pockets of air and space woven throughout the soil profile.
And that must completely change how water behaves on the farm.
Oh, the hydrology changes overnight. Dramatically improved water retention is the very first domino to fall. When a heavy rain hits aggregated soil, the water doesn't run off and take the topsoil with it.
It sinks in.
It infiltrates deeply. The micropores act as tiny reservoirs, holding onto the moisture through capillary action.
Which provides incredible drought resilience. During a dry spell, the soil has this massive reserve of stored water to draw from.
Exactly. And because the soil is lighter and more porous, the grass can drive vastly stronger, deeper root systems.
Because the roots aren't fighting a brick of compacted dirt anymore. They are freely exploring this nutrient-rich, well-oxygenated sponge.
And a deeper root system means the plant can access water and minerals far below the surface, which directly impacts the nutritional profile of the plant itself.
Which leads to the ultimate bottom line detail from the source material. The livestock actually notice the difference.
They absolutely do.
The article highlights that stronger roots and superior nutrient uptake don't just give you more grass, they give you exponentially better grass.
Right.
The livestock show a clear preference for the palatability of the inoculated pasture. Because the Brix levels, which is the measure of sugars and dissolved solids in the plant tissue, those levels are significantly higher.
And better palatability means higher intake. Nutritionally dense forage translates directly to faster weight gain for the animals, better immune function, just overall superior animal performance.
The health of the animal is completely linked to the biological health of the soil.
Inextricably linked.
But, everything in agriculture comes with a price tag.
Always.
The economic math of this transition has to make sense. Buying and applying an advanced archaea probiotic, that's a premium input. It requires a higher initial capital outlay than just picking up a standard subsidized bag of synthetic fertilizer.
The initial cost barrier is real, yes. But the return on investment operates on a completely different timeline than traditional upgrades.
How fast are we talking?
Because archaea establish colonies and continuously cycle nutrients for free, farmers routinely see a full return on their investment within the very first growing season.
The first season, wow. The compounding savings must be staggering when you map them out.
They really are.
You immediately reduce your synthetic fertilizer needs because the microbes are unlocking nutrients already sitting there. You slash your irrigation costs because the soil is retaining moisture. And you elevate your pasture productivity, meaning you can support more livestock on the same acreage with healthier outcomes.
The microbes basically take over the labor and the chemical processes that farmers have historically paid massive conglomerates to handle.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
All right.
If the ROI is that fast and the grass is visibly greener, you have to wonder what the catch is. Because if it were perfectly seamless, every conventional farm would have switched yesterday.
True.
But the article emphasizes that applying archaea isn't just dumping a new product into a hopper. The author specifically calls it inoculating an ecosystem.
And that phrase requires a complete shift in the farmer's operational mindset.
Okay.
You're managing a living biological system now, not just a chemical equation.
Right.
The physical application itself is pretty straightforward. These cultures are usually suspended in a liquid. You can apply them using the existing spray rigs or irrigation pivots the farmer already owns.
Oh, so no new machinery needed.
Usually not. Many producers integrate the application directly into their overseeding operations. So the new seed drops with its own dedicated microbial support staff.
But surely, if a farmer like Jake has been spraying harsh fungicides or herbicides for a decade, that microbial operating system is going to crash immediately upon installation, right?
That is the big catch.
Like, you can't just drop an extremophile into a toxic chemical spill and expect it to thrive.
No, you can't. The source identifies chemical residuals as the #1 troubleshooting failure for new adopters. Antimicrobial products and synthetic fungicides, they are explicitly engineered to lympholyze microbial cell walls. They halt biological activity.
Right, that's their job.
So even though archaea are incredibly resilient once they're established, if you spray a living system onto a field coated in fresh fungicide, the cell walls of the microbes will be destroyed before they can even migrate into the soil.
So you have to detox the environment first.
Exactly. Farmers transitioning to this method have to undergo a waiting period. They have to allow the half-life of those harsh synthetic chemicals to fully degrade before introducing the biology.
Okay, that makes sense. But beyond the chemical history, doesn't the baseline chemistry of the dirt itself dictate success?
It does.
Specifically the pH level. The article notes that archaea heavily prefer neutral to slightly alkaline soil conditions.
Yes, pH is critical. It directly affects the efficacy of those extracellular enzymes we discussed earlier.
The microscopic cleavers.
Right. If a farmer has highly acidic soil, those crucial enzymes can actually denature, and the archaea will struggle to colonize the root zone.
Oh, so they just won't work.
No. In highly acidic environments, the farmer has to pre-treat the field, usually with a calcitic or dolomitic lime application, to neutralize things and balance the pH before even attempting the inoculation.
It's all about setting the stage for the biology to succeed.
Exactly.
And the final piece of that stage seems to be weather timing. We know they have that safe mode dormancy for extreme weather, but the source points out that timing the initial application is highly sensitive.
It's the most vulnerable phase. The vulnerability occurs entirely during the transition. Once they colonize the root system and build their protective biofilms, they can weather almost anything.
But before that,
When they're first sprayed onto the surface of the soil, before they've migrated down into the rhizosphere, they are completely exposed.
so if a farmer sprays the inoculant and a blistering heat wave hits that same afternoon,
The UV radiation and rapid surface desiccation will destroy them before they can seek shelter.
ouch. And I assume the same goes for rain, like if a torrential rainstorm hits immediately after application.
Yep. The sheer hydraulic flushing will push the liquid suspension right past the root zone. It washes the microbes deep into the subsoil before they have a chance to attach to the plant roots.
So the farmer really has to act as a microbial diplomat, finding that perfect window of mild, stable weather.
Exactly.
The article says typically in the early spring as the soil warms up, or in the fall during winter overseeding.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the meticulousness required for that application is a really small price to pay for the resulting paradigm shift.
It really is.
Because this isn't just an agricultural trend, it is a structural democratization of soil health. For decades, the power in agriculture has been consolidated in the hands of massive chemical companies.
Selling proprietary synthetic fixes to biological problems.
Right. But archaea probiotics shift the leverage back to the biology. It fundamentally transitions agriculture from a combatant stance, where we're fighting against the natural environment with sterilants and synthetic salts, to a collaborative stance.
Working in tandem with the soil's native intelligence.
It forces us to recognize the soil as an active, living partner in the farming process, rather than just an inert, empty medium meant to hold roots upright.
Imagine managing a 1,000-acre operation where your fertilizer actively adapts to the climate, where it goes to sleep during a drought to protect your investment and wakes up the moment the rain returns.
It's incredible.
It is. For you listening, whether you're a farmer or just someone who buys food at the grocery store, understanding this invisible world completely shatters the mechanical illusion of modern farming. We aren't just mechanics trying to jumpstart a dead battery anymore.
No, we are learning how to fluently communicate with an ancient, complex biological system.
And we're only scratching the surface of that fluency. As researchers dive deeper into the varied strains of archaea, the applications are expanding far beyond just improving pasture palatability or reducing fertilizer bills. That points directly to a detail at the very end of the article that completely reframes the potential of this science. Researchers aren't just isolating strains for better grass growth, they are identifying new, highly targeted strains designed for massive global ecological goals.
Specifically, carbon sequestration.
Yes. They are looking at utilizing these extremophiles to actively pull atmospheric carbon down into the soil profile and lock it there permanently through their unique metabolic pathways.
It's a game changer.
So think about the trajectory of this innovation. If we are just now, today, beginning to decipher the basic chemical signaling between archaea and plant roots to fix compacted dirt, what happens when we master that language?
That's the billion-dollar question.
Could the future of global agriculture rely entirely on microscopic biological translators? Imagine programming the millions of acres of farmland across the globe to act as an active carbon sink, pulling carbon directly from the atmosphere to build soil structure.
It would render the entire concept of chemical fertilizers a primitive relic of the past.
Exactly. The soil beneath our feet has possessed this staggering intelligence for billions of years. We just finally had to learn how to listen to it.